I would consider myself a pretty good TCG Pocket player. I don't wanna brag, but I've gotten the Gold Emblem in every event so far. So today, we're gonna discuss the best EX card of every type. We start with the type that's been a thorn on my side, the Grass type. Anyone who played the Mythical Island events knows who's coming up. That darn time travel onion, Celebi. The strategy with Celebi is simple. Step 1, try to evolve a Snivy on the bench as quickly as you can. Step 2, give Celebi every energy every turn. Step 3, flip the coin. Anyone who's played against a Celebi knows how annoying it can get. Once Superior's jungle totem is up, the game basically becomes RNG. Unless you're able to take out Celebi as soon as possible, you're basically at the mercy of the coin flips. Though with only 130 HP, most other EX cards can at least two-shot Celebi, and with Cyrus around, pivoting won't save you like it did before. Though with the rise of a certain card we'll get to later, another grass type has been rising the ranks, Exeggutor EX. Something we'll discuss throughout the video is turn order and evolutions. Certain cards have an inherent disadvantage depending on these. If you go first, you gotta wait until your next turn to give a Pokemon energy, though one advantage is you get to evolve your Pokemon first. But the next problem is most evolutions require 2 energy to attack. So this can sometimes cause a problem. You can wait to evolve and attack first to do more overall damage, but then your opponent could KO your Pokemon if they evolve next turn. Option 2 is evolving immediately but then doing less overall damage. Exeggutor's Tropical Swing, however, only needs 1 energy, and with 40 to 80 damage, you can KO most basic cards with just 1 attack. Though I think Celebi still wins out overall, since Exeggutor will slowly do less damage as the game goes on. Well, I've been caught with my pants down. A new pack released the day after I initially finished editing this video. Go figures, I'll rant about this later. But I've updated the end of each section to account for Triumphant Light. But I'll only mention new EX cards I genuinely think are new contenders. For Grass, Leafeon EX can pair really well with Celebi. Leafeon on their own isn't all that much of a powerhouse, what with only 140 HP and only dealing 70 damage. But with Forest Breath, you can give any grass Pokemon a grass energy, so long as Leafeon is in the active spot. So by pairing with Celebi, you can give Celebi 2 energy per turn. Next up is the Fire type, which has been really turning up the heat. First, let's give a quick shout out to Moltres EX. On their own, Moltres is frankly underwhelming. Just 70 damage for 3 energy with only 140 HP is not great. But any Fire main knows you aren't running Moltres offensively. With Inferno Dance, you can set up any fire deck to the point of no return. And there's 2 cards in the running for the best Fire type EX card, Charizard and Infernape, who have similar strengths and weaknesses, but also advantages the other doesn't have. For similarities, they both need to evolve twice, and their strongest attack discards energy they have attached. Charizard has 10 more HP and the strongest non-modifiable attack. Crimson Storm deals 200 damage, which one-shots any card in the game, bar some very niche strategies. But Charizard is significantly harder to set up than Infernape. Crimson Storm needs 4 energy compared to Infernape only needing 2. Charmander's Ember also removes 1 energy, making it hard to stockpile energy without Moltres. And Charmeleon needs 3 energy to attack at all. Chimchar and Monferno though only require 1 energy without cost. And remember when I mentioned turn order earlier? Since Monferno only needs 1 energy, you're safe evolving if you go first. And as mentioned, Infernape only needs 2 energy and has no retreat cost. For weaknesses though, Flare Blitz is significantly weaker. You'll need a Giovanni to one-shot most cards that threaten Infernape, and Infernape's Flare Blitz discards all fire energy attached, so you can't really stockpile energy like you can with Charizard. But overall, I think Infernape holds a slight advantage. The easier setup and pre-evolutions who can protect themselves help. Now we get to the water type, which is kinda just 7.8 out of 10 for me. While Starmie and Articuno reign supreme at the start of the game, two new cards have been changing up the meta: Mythical Island's Gyarados and Space-Time Smackdown's Palkia. First, we'll go over Gyarados. Gyarados has 180 HP and deals 140 damage with Raging Whirlpool, which will discard a random energy from the user and opponent. Gyarados also only needs to evolve once. While Rampaging Whirlpool requires 4 energy, water types have a couple easy ways to gather energy quickly. The classic option is using Misty and hoping you land a couple heads, but you can also run Manaphy Vaporeon support. But speaking of support, Greninja also pairs well with Gyarados, ensuring you can one-shot most cards even without a Giovanni. Next is Palkia, who has strengths and weaknesses over Gyarados. While Palkia only has 150 HP, Slash gives them an early attacking option, but then there's Palkia's strongest attack, Dimensional Storm, dealing 150 damage and 20 damage to the opponent's benched Pokemon. The cost of that attack though is discarding 3 energy from Palkia, but again, water types have several options to stockpile energy, so between Gyarados and Palkia, it's honestly hard to call who's better. When it comes to setting them up, they're about even in my eyes. Gyarados needs to evolve once, but is also overall more tanky. Palkia can defend themselves better early on, but has a higher cost for their strongest attack. But overall, I think Gyarados just slightly gets the win. Gyarados has similar strengths to Palkia, but potentially discarding the opponent's energy is huge. Next is the electric type, which makes me feel the sparks in the air. The best electric type card goes down to 2 Pokemon, Pikachu and Pachirisu. The two of them have a lot in common up front. They have 120 HP, need 2 energy to attack, and a retreat cost of 1. On top of that, they require external factors to deal max damage. Pikachu deals 30 damage per benched electric type, and Pachirisu needs to have a tool attached to deal 80 damage. It's a little hard to decide who's overall better. Pikachu can deal 10 more damage when 3 electric types are benched, but Pachirisu is easier to set up since you just need to meet one condition. So overall, I'd give the slight advantage to Pachirisu. Now let's gaze into the future with the psychic type, and there are 2 clear choices here: Mewtwo and Mew. Mewtwo was the king during the early days of Genetic Apex. Mewtwo's Side Drive deals a massive 150 damage at the cost of 2 energy, which yes, does mean you can only use it every other turn, but of course, the classic Mewtwo combo is pairing them with Gardevoir.
Not in that way.
This combo allows Mewtwo to use Side Drive turn after turn. That being said, Mewtwo has been nerfed quite a bit over time. At the start of the game, there weren't too many good darkness types, but Mythical Island added Scolipede for a combo with Weezing, and then Space-Time Smackdown added a certain card we'll discuss later. But as a Mewtwo main myself, this deck still has a place in the meta, especially with the help of tools and the introduction of Cyrus. But next is Mew, a jack of all trades who can fit any deck. Genome hacking requires 3 energy but isn't type specific. This allows you to use your opponent's attacks against them, and with only an energy cost of 3, you can often use your opponent's strongest attack before they can. And again, since genome hacking can use any energy type, you can have them in any type of deck. And with Budding Expeditioner, Mew can be returned to full HP. But of course, Mew's power output is dependent on the opponent's, so I'd overall give the win to the more consistent Mewtwo. While Mew could beat Mewtwo to using Side Drive, Mew can't do much against other cards like Pikachu. Next, let's knock someone's blocks off with the fighting type. Gallade is pretty enticing all things considered. 170 HP and a minimum of 70 damage. Energized Blade does 20 more damage for each energy the target has, which allows Gallade to one-shot builds like Celebi and Mewtwo. Gallade also evolves from Ralt and Kirlia, who are psychic type, allowing you to avoid super effective psychic moves until you evolve. But I think Aerodactyl takes the top spot as the best TCG Pocket fighting type. While Aerodactyl has less HP and can't do as much damage, Aerodactyl has the Primeval Law ability, preventing your opponent's active Pokemon from evolving. This ability even works while Aerodactyl is benched. This can really impact the early game as evolutions are happening, and in particular, mess with decks like Executor and even Gallade. Okay, yeah. Screw Gallade and Aerodactyl. Garchomp EX is absolutely the best new fighting type EX card. Garchomp needs to evolve twice like Gallade, but Garchomp has 2 attacks, Linear Attack and Dragon Claw. Linear Attack is the big one here, dealing 50 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon. So decks who heavily rely on bench support are in real danger. And sure, Dragon Claw only deals 100 damage, but you can use Cynthia to give Garchomp a 50 damage boost, and Lucario's Fighting Coach to boost fighting damage by 20 points, which as a reminder, stacks. So plus 40 damage with 2 Lucario, and plus 50 damage with Cynthia. Now let's turn down the brightness for the darkness type. Okay, maybe not that much. And here we get a card who needs no introduction, Darkrai EX. If any card has been recently shaking up the meta, it's this one. On its own, 140 HP and only 80 damage for 3 energy ain't that great. But Darkrai has the Nightmare Aura ability, dealing 20 damage to the opponent when you attach energy to Darkrai. And there are a lot of ways people have utilized this ability, such as giving the energy to a benched Darkrai, activating the ability, and then using Dawn to move that energy to an active Darkrai, activating the ability again for more overall damage. As said earlier, Darkrai decks have made a huge impact in the meta. This script is being written and recorded in February of 2025, and about a week ago, a couple fans hosted a TCG Pocket tournament, and of the 8 finalists, 7 of them used a Darkrai Magnezone deck. Next up is the Heart of Steel Metal type, where by default, Dialga EX is the best Metal type EX card. That's not to say Dialga isn't good though. Now yes, Dialga on their own isn't all that strong, only having 150 HP and only dealing 100 damage with 4 energy, but it's Dialga's weaker move that makes Metal type decks so great. Metallic Turbo gives 2 Metal energy to one of your benched Pokemon, which has more utility than you'd expect. Sure, there's a mono Metal deck with Melmetal, but other decks pair Dialga with cards that use colorless energy, such as Yanmega, Licky, and Regigigas to name a few. So in all, Dialga is pretty good for the first Metal type EX card. Okay, yeah, so Dialga isn't the only Metal type EX card around anymore, and Probopass ain't too bad. Defensive unit deals a decent 90 damage and gives a 20 defense boost, but I still think Dialga wins out overall. While Probopass is more tanky, Dialga can both deal more damage and has various ways to offer support with Metallic Turbo. Finally, let's turn down the saturation for the colorless type, and for this, there are 2 options, Pidgeot and Licky. Though Wigglytuff's good too by putting opponents to sleep. I alluded to it earlier, but Dialga pairs really well with Licky. With Licky, you can theoretically do infinite damage. You flip a coin until you get tails, dealing 40 more damage per heads. But with a retreat cost of 4, once you send Licky out, you pretty much gotta lock in. Pidgeot is another great option, dealing 80 damage plus 20 per the opponent's benched Pokemon. This hard punishes cards like Pikachu who rely on bench support. And with 170 HP, there's only one electric type who can one-shot Pidgeot, that being Genetic Apex Raichu. Even then, they need a Giovanni boost. It's close, but while I prefer the consistency of Pidgeot, the meta seems to prefer the Dialga Licky combo. Okay, the final Triumphant Light update, Literal God. Arceus has 140 HP and a max of 130 damage with 3 benched Pokemon. With Fabled Luster, Arceus is immune to status effects. And as support, there are various Pokemon made to pair with Arceus, such as Tyranitar getting a power boost or Crobat doing extra damage. I think this needs a little more time to decide the best colorless EX card, especially with so many combos that can pair with Arceus. But for now, I'll still give the Licky Dialga combo the edge. And there you have it, folks. The best EX card of every type in Pokemon TCG Pocket. Do you agree with my deductions? Which EX cards do you think are the best of every type? Which type do you think is currently the overall best? Let me know in the comments below. And become a member if you're interested. It's only $2 a month. Have a nice day, you wonderful people. Okay, so I recorded this video mid-February of 2025. I then finished editing the video on February 26th, the day before Pokemon Day. Now, the days leading up to Pokemon Day, I heard rumors about a new pack, but I thought, no way that's actually gonna happen. After all, up until this point, TCG Pocket has been pretty consistent. Release a pack, a week or two later, hold the Gold Emblem event. A week or two after that concludes, hold the SP event. Then, a week or two after that concludes, release a new pack. Rinse and repeat. So, of course, now that I was making a video on TCG Pocket, that's when they break the pattern. This video was originally meant to go up on March 30th, but screw that! This video and the next video's dates have officially been switched, cause I ain't letting TCG Pocket pull my pants down a second time.